Hey, Divine Ones, welcome to another Well-Being Wednesday, albeit it is the late night version. I am really honored to be with you here. I am Jerome Braggs. For all of you all who are new to me, I am an intuitive guide who helps you come back home to being the love that you are and living the well and delicious life you deserve. And on that very topic today, I have something I really want to share with you, something I learned in my own journey of living a well and delicious life and becoming the love that I am. And something I've learned in my work with helping clients do the same. And so, if you're new to me, and I know several of you all are watching these videos, are new to my page and are new to my YouTube channel if you're watching the replay. So, I want to share a little bit about my journey. My journey started on January 1st of 2004 when I checked into a hospital with what I thought was the flu and ended up being diagnosed instead with several life-threatening illnesses and two diseases, which were kidney failure and AIDS. And then I was given 7 days to live. On my deathbed, I realized I wasn't ready to die yet, so I began to use everything I understood about the law of attraction in creating a reality to heal myself. And I was able to do that, to fully heal myself in about 3 months' time. I was being called a miracle child. My doctors were amazed. But I found myself back in that same hospital just a year and a half later with the exact same diseases and illnesses to the T. And instead of 7 days to live that time, I have 48 hours. And on my deathbed this time, I had what many people call a near-death experience, where I experienced crossed over into the other side, kind of came out of my body, and was told that the key to truly healing ourselves and living lives of well-being was to come back to who we really are. And that the path to coming back to who we are was to love ourselves. And that near-death experience, when I came out of that experience, that started a multi-year journey where I began to really go deep and dive deep into understanding who we really are, what that really means, and into what the practice of loving ourselves really takes and how it transforms and heals our life. And that journey completely transformed my life into something deeply delicious and really radically healed my body and made it unbelievably healthy. And so I share that kind of stuff today, and this is what I want to share with you today is something I learned along that journey, which is basically when we are experiencing a chronic illness or disease, right? Whether that is something chronic or even especially if it's terminal, what we're taught is that the body just kind of broke down and it betrayed us some type of way, right? And many people even believe that the body we're being punished some type of way through illness, either punished by God or punished by our bodies or something, and that it's just kind of a random thing that happens. And the way that our Western medical model is set up is that you don't heal from that. That's just something you treat. They treat the illnesses and try to alleviate some type of pain that you may be experiencing and try to get you to some type of functioning. But that the possibility of healing that is not really on the table, that there are things that are incurable. And what my journey taught me is that particularly belief system and that paradigm is really not true. And while I'm not a person who is anti-medicine or anti-Western medicine, I do know that there are some things that they understand and some things that they believe that are not actually the whole truth of who we really are and what's actually possible for us, and that it has a limit. And the thing that is missing a lot in our understanding about our bodies and how our bodies work and our health and especially our health care. One of the big things that's missing in our health care is the understanding of our energy and the type of who we are as energetic beings, and what type of energy that we need and what type of energy our bodies need to work at their best to be optimally healthy. And one of the things that I learned was that when we are ill, when we are chronically ill, not just acutely ill, like if you have a flu or if you have, a cold or something like that, or something like that. But if you're experiencing some type of chronic illness or disease like diabetes or cancer or HIV or something like that, what that is a signal of is not a punishment. It's not a betrayal of your body, because our bodies only ever love us. They were created by our souls from the frequency of love to be the house of love. And they love us, and they were created to love us. And so our bodies are never attacking us. They don't ever do anything to try and punish or be against us. So the disease is not a betrayal, it's not a punishment, and it's not an enemy. It's not something that you have to wage war against because you need to fight it because it's trying to take you out. The disease has not come up, the disease has not arisen in your life or manifested in your body to do that. It has come as an indicator. It has come as a signal, really, a message, if you will, a sacred message. And what it's signaling to you is that you have been energetically malnourished and you're energetically starving. And what do I mean by that? Well, everything in this world is energy. Everything, and science has found this. If you take a powerful microscope, you can see whatever you look at. That at the core of it, it's energy moving, right? And different things have different frequencies. They vibrate at different frequencies, right? So the chair over there is energy, but it's moving at a different frequency. And solid matter actually is kind of moving at a slower frequency than things that aren't solid. But if you look at everything under a microscope, you'll see that they're energy. Everything is energy, but it's vibrating at a different frequency. Our bodies are energy, and they were created to vibrate at the frequency of love, which is what we are, which is what our soul is. It's the frequency of love. When we get disconnected from that frequency somehow, and what a lot of people will say in the spiritual fields and metaphysical fields is like when you lower your vibration, which is really you're lowering the frequency. Love is a very high frequency. When you start to lower your frequency, when you start to feel shame, when you start to feel fear, when you start to suppress yourself some type of way, when you have a lot of resentment or whatever, you begin to literally disconnect yourself from the frequency of love, which is the frequency your body was created for. And it's the frequency that allows the body to work at its best. When we have starved our body from that frequency for too long, it starts to break down. And it starts to manifest illnesses. And the illnesses that it will manifest are reflections and indicators of where we've been starving ourselves of love. Now, love, the frequency of love, there's a lot of misunderstandings about that. And one thing I really have come to understand in my journey, and what I first got introduced to in my near-death experience, is love is so much bigger than what we have been defining it as and understanding it as. Most of us, when we think about love, we correlate it with affection, right? We correlate it with somebody caring for you, or somebody, touch, or somebody being like a lover or something like that. But love is much more than that. And what I found was really love is a multifaceted frequency, meaning it has several aspects to it that make it up, right? And what I felt when I had my near-death experience was there were kind of 4 aspects that I would say kind of made up the frequency of love. And they are worthiness, like the feeling of being enough, which is basically feeling a deep, unconditional appreciation and acceptance of yourself, and that you are unconditionally accepted and appreciated. So that was the first aspect, with a feeling of worthiness, that there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing less than about you, that everything is right about you, and that everything about you belongs, that there's nothing that needs to be suppressed or hidden or cut off. Worthiness is a full belonging and appreciation and valuing of the being. So that's kind of the first aspect, and that's usually, when we talk about love, that's kind of really what we kind of touch into, is the worthiness aspect. But that's just one facet, and that's kind of the foundational facet of it. When you get that piece, all the rest of them are more easily to be embodied. But worthiness is an aspect. The other piece that I felt was ease. That love felt like ease. It feels like ease. And what I mean by that is it feels like a sense of deep relaxation and being at peace, that there's nothing in conflict, that there's no stress, and there's also a feeling of safety. Like when people talk about feeling safe, what you really mean is you feel at ease. You don't feel like you need to be on guard or anything. You feel like all is well. There's a deep relaxation of the being. Love feels like that. That's the second aspect of it. The third aspect of love is freedom. And freedom meaning that there's nothing, you feel unlimited. There's nothing restricting. You don't feel restricted anyway. It didn't feel like when I was on the other side, I felt like my whole being was expansive. And I didn't feel like there was anything restricted about me. I didn't feel like there was any limits to anything that I was or that anything was really. And I just felt like a full expression of the self. I felt like everything expanded and fully expressed, right? And so that's what kind of love is the one of the aspects of its frequency is freedom. And then the last aspect here is joy. Is actually an exhilarated feeling of passion, of fun, of pleasure. Love felt very much like that. And not only did I feel this when I was in my near-death experience, I also feel this when I tune in as an intuitive. When I tune in to other people's energy, when I'm working with a person and I'm doing a session with them, one of the things that I do is I tune into their energy so that I can see where they're disconnected from who they really are, what they need to do to reconnect to the energy of themselves, to heal or transform or manifest whatever they want. And one of the things that I do is I connect in with the energy of their body and the energy of their higher self, which is the soul. And this is what I found every time I've connected with somebody. The actual natural frequency of their higher self, of who they really are, feels like worthiness, freedom, ease, and joy. It's love. That's what love is, right? And the soul holds that frequency unconditionally. It never, no matter what goes on, that's how it's always feeling. That's how it always vibrates. And our work is to be that, to do what we can, to be in alignment and to embody that frequency as much as possible. So when we are sick, when illnesses come up, all that is somehow we have been disconnected from the frequency of love for too long. And it may be that, and what I learned from my personal journey, and which is why I got so sick and why I was on death's door and I had manifested several illnesses, was because I was disconnected across all of those aspects. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't have a feeling of worthiness anywhere in my body because I had a lot of shame. I was taught to believe that there was something wrong with me. First, it was about my sexuality. Because I was attracted to the same gender, and I grew up in a very traditionally religious environment and culture, and so I was made to believe that meant that there was something deeply wrong with me. So I felt shame about that aspect of my being for the majority of my life, ever since I was probably 5 years old when I first realized it. And I also felt ashamed. I felt shamed of my body size because growing up, I was a little bigger than the rest of my peers. And so I was called chubby. I was called fat. I was made to believe that I wasn't attractive and my body wasn't lovable as it was. So I was disconnected from worthiness, from a sense of appreciating myself and accepting myself as I am. I was made to feel like I wasn't enough as I am, and that there was something wrong with me as I am. So I was disconnected from worthiness for a long time. And then from ease, I was disconnected from ease because I was raised with workaholics. Both of my parents are workaholics. My father owns a business and has owned a business all of my life that I've known. And he was constantly working, and he was constantly stressed doing his job. And my mother was a physician. And although she loved her work, she was constantly working. She was always bringing work home. She was constantly never just had... I wasn't raised, and I didn't have a model of what it looked like to be at ease in your life, to really live a life of rest and relaxation. And so I always had a lot on my plate. I always had a sense of overwhelm, and I always lived in a sense of stress. And so I never was connected to that aspect of the frequency of love either, of just being at ease. The other part of that was the freedom aspect, because I believed that something was wrong with me being attracted to the same gender, as well as something was wrong with me and my body. And the other thing as well I didn't mention was I was also I knew I was intuitive, and I had psychic and intuitive abilities when I was a kid. And again, I grew up in a very religious culture and environment, and so I also thought that meant something was wrong with me, right? That I could see people on the other side, and that I can communicate with people that weren't, in physical bodies, and that I had a deeper understanding of spirit. That was not what was going on in my Christian upbringing. So I had a lot of shame. And so what shame does is it makes you, one of the aspects of shame is this, there's a hiding and a suppressing of the self. Whatever you feel ashamed about, or whatever we feel whatever we feel is not enough about us or wrong about us, one of the things we'll do to try and hide, one of the things we do to try and make sure people don't reject us for that, or shame us further for that, or abandon us, withdraw their love or their presence from us because of that, is we'll hide it and we'll suppress it. Well, one of the things that happens when you hide, so I didn't fully live my truth around my sexuality for years. I didn't really express my intuitive and psychic gifts for a very long time, for years and years and years. I didn't really, I would hide my body. I would never really show it. I wouldn't wear shorts for fear that people would make fun of my legs for being too chunky. I wouldn't really, I was always hiding some aspect of myself. And what that makes you do is it makes you become imprisoned in your own life. Because you're never being your authentic self. You're never expressing your authentic self in the world when you're hiding and suppressing some aspect of yourself. You're imprisoning yourself. You're in bondage, really. And so I was disconnected from the aspect of freedom for most of my life. And then the last part was joy. So if you're not really being yourself, you don't feel good about yourself, meaning you don't appreciate yourself, you don't accept yourself, and you're not at ease, right? You're not experiencing freedom, you don't have ease, you don't feel worthy. It's impossible to really be happy. It's impossible to really feel joy. And so one of the things that I was disconnected from joy, right? So from the outside, if you looked at me, I was smiling. I was a very kind person. I was very into spirituality. I was meditating. I knew about the chakra system, all of that kind of stuff, right? From the outside, you would say I'm very spiritually centered. I'm a very kind guy. I'm smiling. But so outwardly, I had a good job. So I might be outwardly successful, but I was inwardly turmoiled. And that's the thing about energy. It doesn't just because a lot of people will ask me, well, why is that person sick? They can't be disconnected because they're a very sweet person. They're very happy and they're very spiritual. And you don't know energy is about how a person feels. So energy really translates to what you're feeling, your emotional feeling. So you don't know how somebody's feeling emotionally internally, usually. And so that was me. I didn't feel worthy. I wasn't feeling free. I wasn't feeling at ease. And I definitely wasn't feeling happy, right? And so I was disconnected from the love energy that I am. Each of us, no matter who we are, no matter what color we are, no matter what our sexuality is, no matter what our age is, no matter where we live in the world, you are love energy incarnate. That's what source is. Source is literally love energy. You are love energy incarnate in a physical body. And the more you are connected, the more you be the love that you are, the more your body is well and is healthy, and the more you manifest the things that you really want. And you live a well and juicy and delicious life. The less you do that, you begin to rob when you're not being the love that you are, whether you don't feel worthy. And you may not be disconnected in all four ways, but you cannot feel worthy somehow. You could be feeling that you're not enough. You cannot be at ease. You could be working a job that's stressing you out, or being in a relationship that's stressing you out, or constantly on your phone being stressed out. You could not feel free because you're not fully being your truth, whatever that truth is. It doesn't have to be sexuality. It could be some aspect of your personality. Maybe you're really silly and weird and you're in an environment where you feel like you can't really be yourself. You need to be more serious, right? So maybe you're somehow, some type of way you're feeling bonded and not free. And then lastly, do you feel joy? Are you living a life you really want to live, right? Are you doing the things that feel really fun for you, that feel passion for you, that breathe life through you, that feel exhilarating for you, and that make it feel like your life is worth it? And if you're not, that is a signal that you are disconnected somehow from the love that you are. And when we become ill, when we manifest a disease or illness, and when I say manifestation is everything that is happening in your life. You are manifesting. Now, I don't say necessarily create, because when we think about creating, we tend to think intentional. Meaning, I intended to do this. Like, this was something I chose, or this was something that I preferred for myself. And no one would choose or prefer to create, to manifest an illness, to manifest a disease. That's just not, nobody would do that. Nobody would sit and say, this is what I want. That's not how creation works. Instead, everything you're experiencing in your external reality is a reflection somehow of your internal reality. Your internal reality meaning basically how you're feeling and what you believe, right? And what really manifests your reality is your vibration, the frequency you're holding. And so the illness is showing up because you have really, the illness is showing up because you have really drained your body in some way of the frequency of love. And some people will call this, you may hear this referred to by many different words. You also hear it called life force energy. And what life force energy really is this love energy. It's the love energy that you are. That's the energy that literally gives the body life, right? So some people will call it life force energy. You may have called it, if you're in a different part of the world, you may have heard it called prana. You may have called it chi. Really, all that is this love energy. It's the energy of the soul, right? And your body it was created to house that energy. And if it gets disconnected from that energy for too long, it starts to break down. Not because it's trying to betray you, not because it's punishing you, because it just doesn't have what it needs to live. Just like when we have, we also know that the body needs to eat food, right? And so if the body is withheld from food for too long, the body begins to break down. It begins to break down because it needs that food as nourishment. Love frequency is nourishment for the body just as well. Now, usually what I was shown was when we are malnourished by physical food, that's where a lot of acute illnesses will come up. That's where a lot of like the flu and things like that come up because we haven't been giving ourselves our physical needs, like sleep, like enough water or enough food, right types of food. But chronic illnesses and chronic diseases, I was shown, and what I see in people's energy field, they arise because we have not been giving our bodies enough of the nourishment of love. We have been withholding our bodies from love energy somehow. And it's time for us to get this in. Now, the last thing I want to share with you tonight is when you're looking to heal yourself, you have to think about it from the perspective that I am malnourished and I am starving. This illness is just an indicator that I am starving for love energy. And so one of the things you have to do is you have to, just like if you were starving, if you took a person who was starving from food, they hadn't eaten, let's say, in 3-4 weeks, the answer to helping them heal, right, and helping them come back to wellness isn't to give them like 1 or 2 or 3 strawberries a day, right? That starving person needs to ingest, and that starving person needs to eat and eat a lot to rebalance and recalibrate their body with nourishment. The same thing goes for when you are ill and you have a disease. The invitation for you it is time for you to start to radically ingest a lot of love energy. It's time for you to surround yourself by people you love and who love you. It's time to really release the shame you have around yourself and do a lot of appreciation and acceptance work. It's time to really live a life that nourishes you and makes you feel happy every day. You've got to get nourishment in every day, and you've got to get a lot of it. Not just, I felt happy once this week. Why am I not healing? Right? Oh, I said something nice about myself. I appreciated myself once, for about 5 minutes today. Why am I not healing? This is what I hear a lot with people who come to work with me is they'll say, well, Jerome, I did all that, right? All the stuff that you said. Like I wrote down in my gratitude journal earlier this week, 5 things I liked about myself. And I did, I went out and did something fun last Sunday. And so why am I not healing? Like I had love and I had joy. Why am I not healing? And it's like this, like if a person who is healthy and is getting enough, is well nourished and getting enough food in, right? They don't need to, when they sit down to eat, they don't need to eat 5 plates of food. They may need to just eat like half of 1 plate because they ate earlier this morning. They're not starving. They don't need to ingest a lot. They just need a small dosage here and there every once to keep their body going. For the person who's starving, right? Not the person who's hungry. Like there's a difference between hungry and starving. Like when your stomach's just wrong. I'm talking about somebody who has been withheld from food for a long time. When they sit down to eat, they're going to need like 5 plates to eat. They're going to need to ingest a lot of food to get their body back the nourishment that it's been missing, right? And they don't need to just eat once today. They need to eat several times today, and they need to eat several times for the entire week, right? To get their body back in balance. The same thing is for us. To get ourselves back energetically in balance, we have to ingest a lot of love when you're ill and you're sick. You have to stop living the life that is draining you of the love energy that you are, and it is time to saturate your being with love energy. It is time to saturate it, like to continuously ingest it, not just today, but several times today and for a prolonged period of time. For a prolonged period of time until you have charged your life force energy back through you and you are charged up like a battery, right? If your battery is drained down to the last cell, you can't just like, let's say a phone charger, right? Let's use a perfect example, your phone. If you're using your phone and it's down to 1%, and you charge it into the plug, right? You get the charger and you charge it in and you just charge it up for 1 minute. Right? And then you say, I don't understand. Why isn't my phone at 100%? You only charge it for 1 minute, right? That's probably going to get you maybe another 2%. So now you're at 3%. The same thing goes for when you are chronically ill and you have a chronic disease. You've got to charge yourself for long enough and with enough. And you've got to first understand what it is you need to be charged with, right? So if you look at, I've described in this video what the 4 aspects of the frequency of love are made of. And if you look at, okay, am I having a problem with worthiness? Am I having a problem with ease? Am I having a problem with freedom? Am I having a problem with joy? Like, where am I not having that feeling inside of me? And how long have I been withheld from that feeling? And what do I need to do to make sure I charge myself with this feeling, to do it every day for a prolonged period of time? That's the key to your healing journey. And that's really what I help my clients do, right? I help them understand when somebody comes to work with me, that's the first thing, part of the first thing we do in the session is we look at, okay, where have you been disconnected from the frequency of love? It may be one aspect, it may be several of the aspects, but I intuitively am able to tune in and see, oh, okay, these are where you've been disconnected. This is how you've been disconnected. And then what do you need to do? We work together to really create a plan, a strategy, and a way of living that saturates them back with the energy of themselves so that they can be the love that they are in the world. And their body can heal itself. Because this is the thing, this is the key. When you are charged with love energy, the body will heal itself. That is the key to charging your immune system up. That is the key to giving the cells the nourishment that they need. in addition to whatever your diet is, or your nutrition, your food nutrition plan is, the thing that gives the body and the cells of the body the nourishment that they need to operate at their best and heal from whatever it is, because the body has the wisdom and the ability to heal from anything. As a matter of fact, there have been many scientific studies that have shown that almost every single illness out there in the world that people are experiencing, people have healed from it. They've healed from it. Stage 4 cancers, HIV, kidney failure, diabetes. There have been cases of people that have healed from every single illness on the planet. So the illness can heal. The body can heal from whatever illness, but it needs the proper nourishment. And the proper nourishment is love energy. So I just wanted to share that with you all today. I didn't want to take too much of your time. It's been a good 30 minutes already. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that when you're experiencing an illness or disease, it is not an enemy. It is not a punishment. It is not a betrayal. It's just an indicator that you're being malnourished. And it's time to feed yourself. It's time to feed yourself the love that you are, that you're made of, and that you're made for. And when you do that, when you get enough of the nourishment of love energy in, you will begin to see radical, if not miraculous, changes in your health and in your life. Love energy also is not just what heals the body, it's what heals your life. It's what manifests a well-working, juicy, delicious life for you. So thank you all for watching. I see a lot of you all's comments. Somebody just said, yes, it's time to eat. Indeed. Go out there and eat more love every day, you all. That's why we're here. We're here to be love on the planet and to eat love. Let's read some more of your questions. Kate says, Jerome process works. It's the real deal. When you're ready for something new, you want to learn from this semester. Oh, thank you, Kate. Some more questions here. Cher says, I feel for the LGBT community. My eldest son asked me if God could love him if he was gay. He was heartbreaking as a mother to hear that he had the worry on his mind as he came out. We are very saturated, not just in the West, but kind of all over now, with the message that God views sexuality, that God only views a certain spectrum of sexuality as acceptable. And if you don't live inside of that spectrum, you are unacceptable. One thing I learned about God, what I call source, is God is love. It is love. And just like the sun, it shines on everybody, no matter what. Like the sun does not come out and decide, that person over there, that brown person over there, I'm not going to shine on them because they're brown, or I'm not going to shine on that person because that person is attracted to the same gender, or I'm not going to shine on that person because that person has an illness, or I'm not going to shine on that person because that person doesn't have enough money on their bank account, or I'm not going to shine on that person because of what that person did. That person stole something from someone. The sun shines on us all equally all the time. It is always shining. And the only way we don't receive that light is if there's something blocking that light. Right? If there's something blocking it. And usually the way we block the light of God, which is the light of love, is if we believe something's wrong with us somehow, or we're stressed out, or we're not being the fullness of who we are, right? And so what I learned is that that's absolutely not true, that all sexualities are an aspect of God. We are all literally pieces, incarnations, and aspects of God. We are all expressions of it. So your sexuality is also a part of that. It's not something that makes you less than. It makes you God. It makes you a part of God. And so if I had a child who was experiencing coming out and saying that, I would remind them that God is love, and God wants them to be the fullness of themselves and not suppress any aspect of themselves, and that every aspect of themselves is enough. It is worthy, it is lovable, and it is holy. And if you can do that and get that message in, they will begin to feel enough and begin to accept their being and appreciate their being, and they will become the love that they are on the planet. Until next time, you all, thank you all for watching. I will see you next week. Much love. Now go love yourself. Bye.